There is a war happening inside you right now. It is quiet, invisible, and yet, it is the most important battle you will ever face. No matter how much success you achieve, no matter how far you travel or how many victories you claim on the outside, this war follows you, because it is not fought out there. It is fought here, within the unseen chambers of your own heart and mind. It is the battle between the voice that whispers, "Stay small," and the call that dares you to rise. Between comfort and courage, fear and faith, doubt and action. Every day, without a trumpet sounding or a flag raised, you are summoned back to this battlefield. This battle is not optional. You cannot outrun it. You cannot meditate it away. You cannot numb it with distractions. Because no matter where you go, you are bringing yourself with you. And within yourself, the struggle continues. Across all wisdom traditions, this truth echoes. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In the teachings of the Buddha, we are shown that the mind is both the source of suffering and the key to liberation. Even in modern psychology, thinkers like Viktor Frankl reveal that meaning is not found in changing the world, but in mastering our own inner response to it. Mastery begins when you face the battle within, not with violence, not with shame, but with the fierce gentleness of a warrior who understands that true strength is not in crushing the self, but in transforming it. This is not a war against who you are. It is a journey into who you can become. A journey where weakness is not your enemy, but your teacher. Where failure is not defeat, but a signal that deeper courage is needed. Where discipline is, not a punishment, but an act of self-love. You do not need to be perfect to walk this path. You only need to be willing to rise, to stumble, to learn, and to rise again. Each day, each moment, you are given the sacred opportunity to choose. Will you surrender to the small self, the one ruled by fear and excuses? Or will you awaken the warrior within, the one who knows that real freedom, real peace, and real power can only be found on the other side of self? Mastery. This journey is not for everyone, but it is for you, because you are here, right now, hearing this call. The question is not whether the battle will happen. It already has. The real question is, are you ready to step onto the battlefield and awaken the strength that was always yours? Awakening the inner battlefield. Most people walk through life unaware that the greatest battle they will ever fight is unfolding not around them, but within them. They blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for their suffering, never realizing that the real battlefield is their own mind. Awakening the inner battlefield means seeing the truth. The obstacles outside of us are reflections of the wars we refuse to fight inside. It begins with awareness, a brutal, tender honesty with oneself. It's the moment you stop distracting yourself, stop numbing yourself, and finally look inward with unflinching clarity. You begin to see how often you have negotiated with fear, surrendered to comfort, justified your excuses, and let the weaker voices within rule your decisions. This realization can be painful, but it is also the first moment of real power. For what you are willing to face, you can change. The Buddha taught that ignorance is the root of suffering, and nowhere is this more evident than in the way we ignore our own inner chaos. We build elaborate stories to protect ourselves. I'm too busy. It's not the right time. I'm just not that kind of person. But every excuse is a wall built against growth. Every avoidance is a seed of deeper dissatisfaction. Awakening the battlefield means tearing down these walls and standing naked before the truth of who you are now and who you are capable of becoming. In the teachings of Stoicism, the greatest victory is not over others, but over yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a poetic sentiment. It is a roadmap for transformation. The obstacles you resist facing, your laziness, your fear, your anger, your doubt, are not enemies to be crushed, but invitations to evolve. When you awaken the inner battlefield, you begin to recognize these internal forces not with hatred, but with understanding. Fear arises, and instead of recoiling, you lean in, asking, "What am I afraid of losing?" Doubt creeps in, and you greet it with curiosity. "What dream am I protecting by doubting myself?" Laziness tempts you, and you listen. "Where have I forgotten my purpose?" Awakening is not about declaring war on yourself. It is about learning the terrain of your mind, seeing clearly the valleys of self-doubt, the mountains of ambition, the storms of anxiety, and the clear skies of possibility. The mind is less a battlefield to be conquered by force, and more a garden to be tended with patience and devotion. You cannot force a seed to bloom through aggression. You can only nourish it, protect it, and trust the silent work of growth. In modern psychology, self-awareness is the foundation of any lasting change. Without it, you are a puppet pulled by unconscious forces. With it, you become the architect of your life. Viktor Frankl, who survived unimaginable suffering, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Awakening the inner battlefield means accepting that while you may not control every external event, you have the profound power to shape your internal world, and by doing so, reshape your entire life. This awakening demands courage. It asks you to stop looking for external enemies to conquer, and to begin the deeper work of mastering your own mind. It demands that you stop blaming and start building, stop waiting and start choosing, stop seeking validation and start living from your deepest truth. The battlefield within you is vast. It stretches across every doubt you've ever whispered to yourself, every dream you've ever abandoned out of fear, every moment you chose comfort over courage. But it is also rich with possibility. Every piece of yourself you once tried to reject, your fears, your mistakes, your imperfections, is not a flaw to be eradicated, but a seed for wisdom, if tended with care. Every act of self-mastery, however small, is a victory that ripples outward into the way you live, love, and lead. The world outside will always present challenges, but the battle that defines your destiny is the one you fight and win inside. This is where strength is forged, character is built, and true peace is found. Awaken the battlefield within, and you awaken the warrior you were born to become. Slaying excuses, the gateway to true freedom. When you first awaken to the battlefield within, you realize that the enemy you must face most often is not fear, not doubt, not even pain. It is excuses. They are the silent saboteurs of your life, whispering reasons why today is not the right day, why you're not ready yet, why someone else is better equipped to walk the path you dream of. Excuses are the comfort we sell ourselves in exchange for the life we truly want. They are the invisible chains that bind the soul, more potent than any external prison. Excuses are seductive. They wear the mask of logic and reason. I'm too tired. I'm too busy. I'm too inexperienced, they say. At first glance, they seem harmless, even compassionate, as if they are protecting you from failure or disappointment. But make no mistake, every excuse is a brick in the wall that stands between you and your freedom. Every time you accept an excuse, you fortify the prison around your potential. The Buddha warned of the subtle ways the mind resists awakening. Inertia, laziness, and doubt are not accidents. They are the natural defenses of a mind that fears change. To slay excuses is not to become rigid or cruel with yourself, but to develop a fierce compassion, one that refuses to let your highest self be imprisoned by the small self's fears. Compassion does not coddle weakness. It calls you into strength, into action, into life fully lived. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." No excuse, no moment of hesitation, no fleeting desire for comfort outweighs the sacred opportunity to live with purpose. Every morning is a fork in the road, one path lined with excuses and delay, the other paved with disciplined, imperfect, relentless steps toward who you are meant to become. When you examine your excuses honestly, you will see that they are almost never based on true impossibility. They are based on discomfort. We do not delay action because it is truly impossible. We delay because it feels difficult, because it challenges the fragile self-image we have constructed. We mistake the temporary pain of growth for a valid reason to stay the same. In the wisdom traditions, true freedom is not the absence of discomfort. It is the courage to act rightly despite discomfort. Excuses promise ease but deliver regret. They offer temporary comfort at the cost of long-term suffering. Every excuse you slay is not a loss. It is a liberation. It is a key turned in the lock of your own self-imposed prison. Slaying excuses requires awareness and immediate action. When you hear the voice that says, "I don't feel like it," you move anyway. When the thought arises, "I'll start tomorrow," you act today. Action is the sword that cuts through the fog of hesitation. Every small act of movement, every defiance of the excuse-making mind, is a sacred affirmation that you are not a prisoner of your lesser self. The Stoics, the Buddhists, and modern psychologists all converge on this truth. Action precedes motivation, not the other way around. You do not wait for the feeling to act. You act, and in acting, you awaken the feeling of capability, the momentum of progress, the joy of living aligned with your highest values. There will never be a perfect moment. There will never be a day when all fears vanish, when all conditions align, when the small self disappears without a fight. The path to mastery is walked in the imperfect present by those who refuse to let excuses dictate the terms of their lives. Every time you slay an excuse, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You weaken the grip of the false stories that have kept you small. You grow stronger, not because fear vanishes, but because you choose courage in the presence of fear. To slay excuses is to honor your own life. It is to say, I am not here to live half asleep, to delay my becoming, to shrink from the call of my own soul. I am here to rise again and again into the fullness of who I am. The battlefield is ready. The enemy is not some external force. It is the whisper inside that says, not today, slay it, rise, act, and in doing so, step through the gateway into true freedom. Discipline over motivation, the only reliable power. Motivation is a beautiful feeling. It sweeps through you like a gust of fresh wind, lifting your spirit, sparking your dreams, filling your mind with visions of what could be. But like the wind, motivation is fickle. It comes and goes with the seasons of your life, often abandoning you when you need it most. If you wait for motivation to carry you through the battles of your life, you will spend your days waiting on a force you cannot command. Motivation is a guest. Discipline is your true companion. Discipline is the decision to act not because you feel inspired, but because you have chosen a deeper loyalty to your growth, your purpose, your highest self. It is waking up when you would rather sleep. It is doing the work when your mind pleads for comfort. It is showing up not for applause, not for immediate results, but because you understand that greatness is not forged in moments of excitement, but in the quiet repetition of right action. The Buddha taught that the middle path, the way of balance and consistency, leads to liberation. Discipline is the embodiment of this path. It is not extreme. It does not demand superhuman effort for a day or a week. It asks for steady, unwavering devotion over a lifetime. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Discipline bypasses the endless debates of the mind and moves directly into the realm of being. You become what you do consistently, not what you intend when you feel good. Modern psychology echoes this truth. James Clear, in his work on habits, emphasizes that identity is shaped by repeated action. You are not disciplined because you suddenly feel like being disciplined. You are disciplined because you have built tiny, consistent acts of self-mastery into the architecture of your life. Over time, these small acts forge an identity so strong that when motivation fades, as it inevitably does, you continue moving forward. The illusion of motivation is that you must feel ready before you act. The reality of discipline is that you act your way into readiness. Action first, feeling second. Every time you act without waiting for permission from your emotions, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. Discipline is the quiet heroism of the everyday. It is not dramatic. It will not often be celebrated, but it is the invisible thread that weaves the fabric of a meaningful life. When you build a life based on discipline, you are no longer tossed by the winds of fleeting moods, the rise and fall of energy, the praise or criticism of others. You stand firm, rooted in your own commitment to yourself. Imagine a river carving through stone, not with a single surge, but with steady persistence over centuries. This is the power of discipline. The river does not rage against the stone, it simply refuses to stop. Likewise, when you live with discipline, you do not need to fight your weaknesses with rage. You need only show up again and again, letting steady action carve a path through resistance. The strongest individuals are not those who wait for perfect conditions. They are those who learn to move forward when conditions are imperfect, uncertain, difficult. They train themselves to act when it is hard, when it is inconvenient, when every fiber of their being whispers, "Not today." In those moments, discipline speaks louder than excuses, louder than fear, louder than doubt. Discipline is not harshness. True discipline flows from a place of deep self-respect. It says, "I believe in myself enough to keep my promises even when it's hard." It is the art of loving yourself enough to demand the best from yourself, not through punishment, but through devotion. It is knowing that the version of you that is tired, discouraged, or afraid is not the whole of who you are, and choosing to act in alignment with your higher self rather than your fleeting emotions. This path is not easy, but it is simple. When motivation fails, and it will, discipline remains. When fear rises, discipline stands firm. When doubt creeps in, discipline takes the next step anyway. Every act of discipline is an act of faith, faith in your own becoming, faith in the silent work of transformation happening beneath the surface of visible results. You do not need to be perfect to live with discipline. You only need to be willing to show up today and tomorrow and the day after that, knowing that every small act matters. Over time, discipline will build a foundation beneath you so strong that not even the fiercest storms of life can shake it. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. Do not wait for the spark. Build the fire. Tend it daily, and watch as it lights the way to the life you were born to live. Growth through hardship, making pain your teacher. No one escapes pain. It weaves itself into the fabric of life, touching every person, every heart, no matter how carefully they plan or how earnestly they strive. The illusion that life should be comfortable, that happiness comes from avoiding struggle, is one of the most persistent and dangerous myths we are taught. True growth does not occur in the absence of hardship. It is hardship that chisels away the false layers, revealing the strength, clarity, and resilience hidden within you. When pain comes, the instinct is to resist it, to label it as wrong, unfair, unnecessary. But what if pain is not the enemy? What if pain is the patient teacher you have been avoiding, the one who refuses to flatter you, the one who demands your full attention? In Buddhist teachings, suffering is not seen as punishment, but as a natural part of life, a doorway to deeper understanding when met with awareness. Rather than aversion, hardship strips away illusions. It shows you who you are beneath the surface comforts and societal roles. It reveals your fears, your attachments, your hidden strengths. Pain is the fire that burns away everything inauthentic, leaving only what is real. Without it, the ego remains bloated, fragile, obsessed with image. Through it, humility is born, and with humility, the soil for wisdom is prepared. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus, who lived much of his life in physical slavery, taught that suffering itself is not what harms us. It is our interpretation of suffering that determines whether we are broken by it or strengthened through it. Difficulties are things that show a person what they are, he wrote. Hardship is a mirror. It reflects not only your outer circumstances, but the architecture of your inner world. It shows you where you are strong and where you are weak, where you are whole and where you are fractured. To make pain your teacher is to approach hardship with curiosity rather than bitterness. When life presses against you, ask, what is this moment trying to reveal? What strength is being forged in me right now? What outdated beliefs or attachments must I release? It is not a call to romanticize suffering or to seek it unnecessarily. It is an invitation to recognize that when suffering does arise, and it will, you have a choice to be hardened by it or to be refined by it. In modern psychology, the concept of post-traumatic growth shows that many individuals emerge from profound adversity not merely healed, but transformed, wiser, stronger, more compassionate. Hardship does not have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a deeper, richer chapter if you are willing to engage with it consciously, to let it teach you rather than embitter you. Pain tests your patience, your resilience, your faith, not just in external outcomes, but in the unseen unfolding of your own growth. It challenges the small self that demands life be easy, predictable, comfortable. It calls forth the deeper self that understands life's true richness comes not from ease, but from meaning. Every scar earned through conscious engagement with hardship becomes a testament to your aliveness, your courage to live fully rather than merely exist. The path of spiritual and personal growth is not a path that bypasses pain. It is a path that moves through it with open eyes and an open heart. It is a path that transforms wounds into wisdom, fear into fortitude, despair into deeper compassion for oneself and others. When you meet your own suffering with gentleness, with fierce honesty, with the determination to extract meaning rather than resentment, you turn pain from a force of destruction into a force of transformation. Imagine your life as a sculpture. Comfort alone does not shape you. It is the blows of hardship, the carving away of certainty, the polishing born of friction that reveals the masterpiece hidden within the block of marble. Growth through hardship is not about surviving pain. It is about using pain, transmuting it into the very foundation upon which you stand taller, see farther, love deeper. The world will not spare you from hardship, but it will offer you, again and again, the chance to respond differently, to choose resilience over resignation, courage over bitterness, transformation over victimhood. Every hardship is a crossroads. Stay trapped in the old stories, or step into the new self that hardship has invited into being. Pain is not your enemy. It is your tutor in the art of becoming fully alive. Make it your teacher, and you will not merely endure life's challenges. You will grow because of them. You will step through the fires of difficulty not as a victim, but as a warrior, tempered and awakened, carrying within you a strength that no easy path could ever give. Mastering emotions. The art of inner mastery. Emotions are powerful forces. They surge within us like tides, sometimes lifting us to moments of profound joy, other times crashing us against the rocks of fear, anger, or despair. To feel is to be human, but to be ruled by emotions, to be a prisoner of every passing wave of feeling, is to live at the mercy of forces you do not control. True freedom begins not with the absence of emotion, but with the mastery of it. Mastering emotions does not mean suppressing them, denying them, or pretending they do not exist. It means creating space between what you feel and what you choose to do. It is learning to sit with anger without becoming it, to feel fear without obeying it, to recognize sadness without drowning in it. It is the art of remaining anchored when the storms of feeling threaten to sweep you away. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from the feelings themselves, but from our attachment to them, from clinging to pleasant emotions and resisting unpleasant ones. The practice of mindfulness, at its heart, is about witnessing the arising and passing of emotions without being ensnared by them. Emotions are like weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. They are real, but they are not you. They are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. The Stoics also understood this truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotions, though powerful, are internal events. They do not compel action unless you grant them permission. The choice, to act out of impulse or out of principle, always remains yours. Modern psychology confirms what ancient wisdom has long taught. Emotional regulation is one of the greatest predictors of a fulfilled, resilient life. Those who can recognize, name, and navigate their emotions without being overwhelmed by them live with greater clarity, make wiser decisions, and forge deeper relationships. Emotional mastery is not cold detachment. It is warm, conscious engagement. It is feeling everything, yet choosing responses that align with your highest values rather than your passing moods. Mastering emotions begins with awareness. When an emotion arises, notice it without judgment. Label it, this is anger, this is fear, this is grief. Naming an emotion creates distance between you and the feeling, allowing you to observe it rather than be consumed by it. Notice where it lives in your body, the tightening in your chest, the clenching of your jaw, the fluttering in your stomach. Breathe into it. Allow it space to exist without demanding immediate action. Next comes inquiry. Ask yourself, what story is this emotion trying to tell me? Emotions carry messages, but they are not always reliable narrators. Fear might say, you are in danger, when in truth, you are simply facing something unfamiliar. Anger might say, you are being attacked, when perhaps you are being challenged to grow. Sadness might say, all is lost, when really, a chapter is ending to make space for a new beginning. Listen to the emotions, but do not let them write your story. Then comes choice. Having felt and understood the emotion, you choose how to respond. Not react, respond. A reaction is automatic, driven by the emotion itself. A response is conscious, aligned with your values, chosen with the full awareness of the moment. The power lies not in feeling less, but in choosing more wisely. Emotions are not obstacles to be eradicated. They are teachers to be honored. Anger teaches you about boundaries. Fear teaches you about courage. Sadness teaches you about love and loss. Even jealousy, resentment, anxiety, all have lessons to offer if you are willing to listen with patience and discernment. Imagine your mind as a vast ocean. On its surface, emotions are the waves, sometimes calm, sometimes violent. But deep beneath, there is a stillness that is never disturbed. Mastery is not about stopping the waves. It is about learning to navigate them while staying connected to the stillness below. When you live from that depth, emotions no longer toss you about. They move, but you remain steady. In mastering your emotions, you reclaim your power. You no longer say, "He made me angry," or "She made me sad." You recognize that emotions arise within you, and you are responsible for how you meet them. You stop blaming the world for your inner state and begin shaping your inner state as the foundation from which you meet the world. This mastery is not achieved in a single moment of insight. It is cultivated over time, breath by breath, choice by choice. It is forged in the moments. When you pause instead of lash out, when you breathe instead of retreat, when you act with integrity even when your feelings urge you toward impulsiveness. Emotions will always come. That is not the question. The question is whether you will be ruled by them or rule yourself through them. Mastering emotions is not about becoming less human. It is about becoming fully human, feeling deeply, living fully, and choosing consciously. In the end, the art of mastering emotions is the art of mastering yourself. And in mastering yourself, you open the door to true freedom, the kind that no external force can ever take away. Building self-respect through relentless discipline. Self-respect is not something you can purchase, inherit, or demand from the world. It is something you build, choice by choice, action by action, over time. It is forged in the unseen moments, when no one is watching, when no applause is offered, when the only eyes upon you are your own. True self-respect is the result of a silent agreement you make with yourself, to live in alignment with your highest values, even when it is hard, even when it is inconvenient, even when no one else will ever know. The modern world often teaches that self-esteem comes from affirmation, from being praised, liked, or validated by others. But this kind of external validation is fragile. It can be given, and it can be taken away. It rises and falls with the fickle tides of public opinion, circumstance, and luck. True self-respect is rooted not in what others think of you, but in what you know to be true about yourself. In the private victories you win when you choose discipline over indulgence, integrity over convenience, purpose over comfort. The Buddha taught that the greatest victory is the victory over oneself. Self-mastery, not conquest over others, is the foundation of dignity and peace. When you practice relentless discipline, you are not punishing yourself. You are honoring yourself. You are saying, "I am worthy of trust. I can rely on myself. I can carry the weight of my own promises." Discipline builds self-respect because it demands consistency between your values and your actions. Each time you wake early to meet your commitments, each time you resist the easy temptation, each time you act from principle rather than impulse, you send a signal to your subconscious. I am someone who does what I say I will do. Over time, these signals accumulate, constructing an inner fortress that no external opinion can breach. The Stoics knew this deeply. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Discipline invites you to prove yourself to yourself. It invites you to become the kind of person you can look in the mirror and respect, not because you are perfect, but because you are honest, courageous, and committed to your own becoming. Modern psychology affirms that self-efficacy, the belief in one's own ability to influence outcomes, is one of the cornerstones of psychological resilience and well-being. Each disciplined act reinforces your sense of agency, your belief that you are not a passive victim of circumstance, but an active participant in your own life story. With every disciplined choice, you reclaim a little more of your own sovereignty. Building self-respect through discipline is not about rigidity or harshness. It is about self-love in its most powerful form. It is about caring enough about your future self to endure the temporary discomfort of disciplined action today. It is about recognizing that the highest form of compassion is not indulgence, but empowerment. Imagine your life as a temple you are constructing, stone by stone. Each act of discipline is a stone laid with care and intention. If you abandon your work when the weather is bad, if you substitute weak materials when no one is looking, you are the one who will live in the crumbling structure. But if you persevere, if you choose excellence even when it costs you comfort, you will dwell in a temple of your own making, a place of integrity, strength, and peace. Self-respect is not about pride or arrogance. It is a quiet, steady knowing. It is walking into a room without needing to prove anything to anyone because you are at peace with who you are. It is meeting your own gaze without flinching because you know, deep in your bones, that you have honored your word to yourself. This does not mean perfection. You will fall short. You will have days when you stumble, when your discipline wavers. But even then, the path remains. Every time you return to it, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you choose to rise again, you affirm your commitment to yourself. Discipline is not a cage. It is the scaffolding upon which you build your freedom. In the end, relentless discipline is not about control for its own sake. It is about liberation. It is about becoming the kind of person you can trust with your dreams, your talents, your life. Self-respect grows not in moments of comfort, but in moments of choice, when you act not according to what is easy, but according to what is right. Choose discipline. Choose yourself. Build, day by day, the self-respect that no one can give you, no one can take away, and no storm can ever destroy. The art of endurance, the power of perseverance. Endurance is not glamorous. It does not sparkle with the allure of quick victories or instant success. It is slow, often invisible, sometimes thankless, and yet, it is one of the greatest powers you can cultivate, because in a world that glorifies speed, shortcuts, and immediate results, the ability to endure, to stay steady through discomfort, uncertainty, and adversity is what ultimately defines the strength of your character and the depth of your freedom. To endure is to remain when every part of you wants to flee. It is to stand firm when the storms howl, when the ground beneath you shakes, when doubt whispers that surrender would be easier. It is not stubbornness or blind rigidity. It is a conscious choice to continue, not because it is easy or because the rewards are guaranteed, but because you have committed to a path deeper than comfort and wider than fear. The Buddha taught that patience, tai, is one of the highest perfections. It is not passive waiting. It is active, engaged endurance. It is the capacity to remain open-hearted in the face of suffering, to meet difficulty not with resentment, but with steadfastness and compassion. Endurance, in this light, is not merely surviving hardship. It is transmuting hardship into the raw material of wisdom. The Stoics spoke often of endurance. Epictetus reminded his students that external circumstances are not under our control, but how we meet them is. It is not things themselves that disturb us, he said, but our opinions about them. Endurance is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you are unaffected. It is about recognizing that pain, disappointment, and hardship are part of the human experience, and choosing to engage life fully despite them. Modern psychology affirms this ancient wisdom. Research on grit and resilience shows that perseverance in the face of challenges is a greater predictor of success and well-being than raw talent or even initial enthusiasm. Those who endure, who continue to take small, consistent steps even when progress seems invisible, are those who eventually break through barriers that stop others cold. The art of endurance is cultivated not in grand gestures, but in small daily choices. It is found in rising one more time after falling, in taking one more step when your legs ache, in speaking one more word of truth when your voice trembles. It is a slow accumulation of quiet acts of courage that, over time, carve a path through what once seemed impassable. Endurance teaches humility. It strips away the illusions of control and perfection. It reminds you that you are not owed easy victories, that real growth often demands seasons of struggle, doubt, and unseen effort. It invites you to trust in the process rather than demand immediate results. Like a farmer tending a field, you plant seeds, water them faithfully, endure droughts and storms, and wait patiently for the harvest, knowing it will come in its own time. There is a beauty in endurance that few notice, a sacredness in the willingness to stay when it would be easier to leave, to hope when it would be simpler to despair. It is an act of radical faith, not faith that life will always be easy, but faith that you can meet life with resilience, dignity, and an open heart, no matter what it brings. Imagine yourself as a mountain. The winds may howl, the rains may beat against your face, the seasons may strip you bare, but you remain. Not untouched, not unfeeling, but unmoved in your commitment to stand. Endurance is this inner mountain, the unshakable core that holds you upright even when everything around you seems to fall apart. To cultivate endurance is to accept that suffering, delay, and difficulty are not signs you are failing. They are signs you are on the path. Every great transformation, in nature, in character, in spirit, unfolds over time, through cycles of hardship and renewal. Endurance is the bridge that carries you across these cycles, allowing you to arrive not just at success, but at a deeper, more grounded version of yourself. The art of endurance is not about gritting your teeth and bearing it blindly. It is about staying awake, staying engaged, and finding meaning even in the midst of pain. It is about trusting that every step taken in perseverance shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate. In the end, endurance is not about proving your toughness to the world. It is about honoring the journey of your own becoming. It is the quiet vow you make to yourself. I will not give up on me. I will not abandon my own soul when the road grows long and hard. I will stand, I will stay, I will endure, not because it is easy, but because it is the way I become who I was meant to be. Finding strength in solitude. Solitude is often misunderstood. In a world that celebrates constant connection, endless noise, and perpetual stimulation, being alone can seem like a failure, a deficiency, something to be fixed. Yet true solitude is not the absence of connection, but the presence of yourself. It is not loneliness, it is intimacy with your own mind, your own soul, your own unfolding truth. To find strength in solitude is to reclaim the most essential relationship you will ever have, the one you have with yourself. When you are alone, there are no distractions to shield you from your thoughts, no social masks to hide behind, no external affirmations to validate your existence. It is just you, raw, unfiltered, honest. And in that honesty, you meet not only your fears and insecurities, but also your resilience, your creativity, your quiet power. Solitude strips away the noise of the world and reveals the steady pulse of your own being. The Buddha often withdrew into solitude, understanding that the mind, when left unexamined, spins endless stories that entangle us in suffering. In the silence of solitude, these stories surface. They show you your attachments, your illusions, your clinging. But they also offer the precious opportunity to see through them, to recognize that you are not the sum of your thoughts, your fears, your accomplishments, or your failures. You are the awareness behind it all. Vast, silent, unshakable. The Stoics, too, revered solitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote privately to himself, reminding his mind to retreat into its own inner citadel, a fortress of tranquility that no external chaos could breach. Solitude, for them, was not an escape from life, but a deep engagement with it, a way to cultivate clarity, virtue, and strength untainted by the crowd's shifting opinions. Modern psychology now confirms what these ancient traditions knew: solitude, when embraced consciously, fosters emotional regulation, deep reflection, creativity, and self-awareness. Time alone allows the mind to settle, the nervous system to reset, and the spirit to reconnect with its deeper currents. It is not isolation that damages the soul, it is disconnection from oneself. To find strength in solitude, you must first unlearn the fear of your own company. You must sit quietly and allow the initial waves of restlessness, boredom, and self-judgment to wash over you without running away. You must be willing to feel the discomfort of meeting yourself without distraction, and then stay, breathing, watching, softening. At first, solitude may feel empty, even frightening. Without the constant feedback of others, without the noise of daily life, you may feel exposed, vulnerable. But as you stay, you begin to hear another voice, quieter, wiser, deeper. It is the voice of your intuition, your inner knowing, the voice that is drowned out in the clamor of everyday existence. Listening to it requires patience, trust, a willingness to be uncomfortable long enough for clarity to emerge. In solitude, you remember that you are not defined by your roles, your achievements, or your failures. You are not the persona you project or the expectations others place upon you. You are simply and profoundly alive, breathing, sensing, being. This remembrance is not a thought, but an experience, a rerouting of yourself in the ground of being that no external circumstance can shake. Solitude strengthens you because it removes the crutches you did not know you were leaning on. It invites you to walk with your own legs, to sit with your own heart, to trust your own mind. It teaches you that you are enough, not because you are perfect, but because you are whole in your imperfection. Imagine your life as a tree growing deep in a quiet forest. Without the winds of constant distraction, your roots grow deeper. Without the noise of competing voices, your trunk grows straighter. Without the need for constant validation, your branches stretch wider, reaching for the sky with quiet confidence. Solitude is the soil in which your true self takes root and flourishes. Finding strength in solitude does not mean rejecting connection with others. It means bringing to those connections a self that is whole, centered, and not desperate for validation or rescue. It means loving from fullness rather than from emptiness, giving from abundance rather than from lack. In solitude, you forge an inner anchor that holds steady through the tempests of life. You become a quiet force, unshakable not because life is easy, but because you know where your true home lies, within yourself. Solitude is not a punishment, it is a gift. It is the sacred space where you meet the fullness of your being, where you rediscover the unbreakable strength that was always yours. Embrace it, trust it, let it reveal to you the power you carry within. Controlling the chaos of the mind, taming the wild horse. The mind is like a wild horse, beautiful, powerful, and capable of extraordinary journeys, but also easily spooked, restless, and uncontrollable if left untrained. One moment it gallops toward grand visions of success. The next, it bolts in fear at the first sign of uncertainty. It races in circles of anxiety, drifts into the deserts of distraction, or collapses under the weight of its own imagined failures. Left unchecked, the mind does not lead you to freedom. It drags you through chaos, leaving you exhausted and lost. True freedom begins with learning to tame this wild horse, not through brute force or harsh suppression, but through patient, consistent training. The Buddha described the untamed mind as a monkey leaping from branch to branch, never resting, never satisfied. Only through mindful awareness, he taught, can the mind be calmed and directed. You cannot fight chaos. With more chaos, you must become the steady rider, calm, clear, compassionate, guiding the mind back onto the path each time it strays. The first step in taming the mind is recognizing its nature. The mind loves novelty, stimulation, drama. It feeds on worries about the future, regrets about the past, judgments about the present. But the mind's chaos is not who you are. You are not the thoughts you think. You are the awareness that observes them. This realization creates a critical space, the space in which choice becomes possible. Without this space, you are a puppet pulled by every fleeting impulse. With it, you are the master of your own inner world. The Stoics understood the necessity of mastering the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The external world is unpredictable, but the mind can be trained to meet life's uncertainty with steadiness. It is not about controlling everything outside of you. It is about mastering the only thing you ever truly could: your own reactions, your own interpretations, your own focus. Modern psychology supports this ancient wisdom. Cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and emotional regulation practices all point to the same truth: that awareness and intentionality are the antidotes to mental chaos. When you train your attention, when you deliberately choose where to place your focus, you take the reins back from the wild horse. Training the mind is an act of relentless kindness. You do not berate the horse for being restless. You guide it gently, patiently, consistently. When the mind wanders into fear, you notice it without judgment and bring it back. When it rushes into anger, you breathe and return. When it collapses into despair, you offer it a hand and lead it once more to the open path. Meditation is the ancient art of this training. Sitting still, breathing, noticing the torrent of thoughts without being swept away, you teach the mind that it does not have to react to every passing cloud. You cultivate the inner stillness from which wise action arises. Over time, the wild horse begins to trust the rider. The mind, once scattered and frantic, becomes supple, attentive, powerful. Taming the mind does not mean silencing it forever. It means teaching it to work for you, not against you. It means transforming chaos into creative energy, anxiety into clear seeing, distraction into focused presence. It means reclaiming your birthright, the ability to direct your life from a place of clarity, not compulsion. Imagine standing at the center of a great storm. Winds whip around you, debris flies past. Yet you remain grounded, untouched at your core. The storm is real, but it no longer defines you. This is the gift of a trained mind, the ability to live within the whirl of life's uncertainties without losing yourself to it. Controlling the chaos of the mind is not about achieving a state of permanent peace where nothing disturbs you. It is about returning to peace again and again, no matter how many times you are thrown off balance. It is about becoming the one who, despite fear, despite anger, despite confusion, chooses presence over panic, clarity over chaos, and love over fear. The wild horse of the mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally once tamed. Its strength, once disciplined, can carry you farther than you ever dreamed possible. It can leap over the obstacles of fear, gallop through the deserts of doubt, and climb the mountains of transformation. But first, you must take the reins. You must commit, every day, every moment, to riding the mind with kindness, courage, and clarity. Only then will you discover the power that was never outside of you, but waiting patiently within, ready to carry you toward the vast horizon of your own highest becoming. The legacy of strength, living beyond the self. Strength is not just about how much you can endure or achieve in your lifetime. True strength creates ripples that continue long after you are gone. The life you live, the choices you make, the courage you embody, all of it weaves a legacy, a living imprint on the world, on others, and on the silent fabric of existence itself. To live only for yourself is to shrink into the smallness of temporary gratification, but to live beyond yourself, to shape a legacy rooted in strength, wisdom, and compassion, is to join the timeless dance of human awakening. When you understand that your actions echo beyond the moment, discipline ceases to be a burden and becomes a sacred offering. Every time you choose integrity over convenience, perseverance over ease, generosity over selfishness, you are not just building your character. You are building the invisible bridges that others will one day cross. Your strength is not yours alone. It becomes the soil in which future seeds can grow, the shade under which others can rest, the light that silently shows the way when the night feels endless. The Buddha taught that the purpose of life is not merely to end suffering for oneself, but to become a source of refuge for all beings. Strength, in this light, is not domination, it is service. It is the quiet power of a being who has tamed their own mind and heart, and in doing so, radiates peace, courage, and compassion into a world desperately in need of them. Legacy is not built by loud victories or grand monuments. It is built by 1,000 unseen choices to live with courage and heart even when no one is watching. The Stoics understood legacy deeply. Marcus Aurelius, writing only for himself and never intending his words to be published, left behind a manual for living that still changes lives 2,000 years later. He did not seek fame, he sought to embody virtue, and in doing so, he created something far greater than fame. He created a lasting influence born not of ambition, but of authenticity. Modern psychology echoes this ancient truth. Studies on meaning and fulfillment show that those who live with a sense of purpose beyond their own pleasure or success experience deeper satisfaction, resilience, and peace. We are wired not merely for survival, but for contribution. The soul longs not just to exist, but to matter, to be part of something larger, something enduring. Living beyond the self does not require grand gestures or world-changing inventions. It requires presence. It requires living each day as if it matters, because it does. It requires speaking words that heal rather than harm, making choices that uplift rather than diminish, offering your time, your energy, your presence as gifts rather than as transactions. You build your legacy moment by moment, choice by choice, whether you are aware of it or not. It is not something you craft later in life. It is being crafted now in how you meet your challenges, how you treat others, how you honor your deepest values. Every small act of integrity, every quiet moment of courage, every refusal to betray your principles shapes the invisible architecture of the legacy you leave behind. Imagine your life as a fire lit not just to warm yourself, but to offer warmth to those who come after. Imagine your strength as a river, not dammed up for your own use, but flowing freely, nourishing everything in its path. When you live this way, you free yourself from the small, anxious self that clutches and fears. You step into the larger self, the one that trusts, that gives, that knows the true measure of a life is not what you keep, but what you give away. To live beyond the self is not to erase yourself. It is to deepen yourself. It is to recognize that the truest fulfillment does not come from self-indulgence, but from self-transcendence. It is to know that you are not separate from life, but an expression of it, a thread in a vast, luminous tapestry. At the end of it all, the question will not be how much you accumulated or how comfortable you were. The question will be, what did you become? What light did you kindle? What strength did you pass on? Strength lived selfishly dies with you. Strength lived generously lives forever. Leave a legacy not of perfection, but of courage, not of fearlessness, but of perseverance, not of spotless virtue, but of a heart that kept striving toward wisdom and compassion, no matter how many times it fell and rose again. You are building your legacy now. Every breath, every step, every choice is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. Make it a work of strength, of service, of enduring beauty, live beyond the self. And in doing so, you will find that you were never just building a legacy, you were becoming it. Conclusion: becoming the unshakable force within. The journey we have walked together has not been about seeking something outside of ourselves. It has been about returning to the quiet wellspring of strength that has always lived within you. Beneath the storms of thought, the tremors of fear, and the shifting sands of circumstance, there remains a place in you that does not move, does not break, and does not forget who you truly are. You have faced the battlefield within, not with violence, but with clarity and patience. You have learned that true mastery lies not in dominating life, but in meeting it fully, with an open heart and an unwavering spirit. You have seen that hardship is not an enemy, but a sculptor, that discipline is not a cage, but a doorway, that solitude is not emptiness, but an invitation to know yourself more deeply than ever before. You have begun to tame the wild horse of the mind, not by chaining it, but by guiding it with kindness and steadiness. You have recognized that emotions are not meant to rule you, but to inform you, signals to be heard, but not obeyed blindly. You have learned that endurance is not mere survival, but a sacred act of choosing to rise, again and again, when comfort would urge you to collapse. Most importantly, you have remembered that your strength is not for you alone. It is a light for others lost in the dark, a river for those whose wells have run dry, a testament that quiet resilience can outlast the loudest storms. Legacy is not the monuments you build, but the lives you touch by living fully, fiercely, and tenderly true. Becoming the unshakable force within is not a final destination. It is a way of walking, a way of breathing, a way of meeting each moment with the quiet confidence that you are enough. Not because you are untouched by life, but because you are deeply, courageously, intimately engaged with it. As you leave this reflection, carry the flame we have kindled together. Let it light your days in small ways, a word of kindness, a steady breath amid chaos, a silent vow renewed with every sunrise. I will not abandon myself. I will rise. I will endure. I will become. And if this journey has stirred something deep within you, if a quiet voice inside whispers that this path feels true, I invite you to walk further with us. Subscribe to this space of reflection. Share it with those who seek their own awakening. Return when your spirit needs nourishment, and know that here, you will always find a light waiting for you. The journey is never really over. It only deepens. Walk gently, stand firmly, and never forget, the unshakable force you seek has been within you all along.